Hi, I'm Kevin Barthel. Thanks for joining me. I thought it would be nice to invite you into my home today. This has been my labor of love for the past 5 years. And like any labor, it's had its fair share of sweat, frustration, confusion, and the joy of accomplishment. Sometimes people find their dream homes, but most of us, we have to build them. So let me take you into the first room that began this entire project, the bathroom. Here we are in the bathroom. My building was built in 1929, so I wanted to keep with the more traditional feeling of the building and not go too contemporary. Now, if it was in a high-rise, my style might be more contemporary. This room was gutted down to the floor and the brick walls. I was showering for 3 weeks with plastic lining the bathtub. I stole 2 feet from the dining room to put in this wall of cabinets. Now, originally, there was a tiny, useless wall cabinet in the corner. These cabinets were seconds, purchased at a wholesale warehouse. The stone counter was salvaged from the backyard of a cafe. I took it to a stone countertop company and they cut it to size for me. I wanted a tin ceiling in here, but I didn't want to spend the money on one. So I spray painted ceiling tiles that came pre-primed and then glued them to the existing ceiling. I was lucky to have a plumber who also knew how to install tile. I probably could have figured it out on my own, but by the time I would have put in the first tile, he would be done with the entire bathroom. Sometimes it's worth the money to have an expert do it. The medicine cabinet I constructed out of that tiny cabinet that I ripped out of here. Because I did it custom, I was able to take advantage of the cutout in the wall and make the deepest medicine cabinet ever. The only fixture not original to the bathroom is the sink. I fell in love with this the moment I found it, and I allowed it to be my splurge. Now, I wish I could say I was smart enough to have thought of this in advance, but I'm not. And that's the placement of the towel rack above the radiator. It makes me very happy on those cold Chicago mornings. Welcome to my bedroom. Now, I realize that the style of this room may not be to everyone's taste, but I took my inspiration for this room from a painting my parents gave me for college graduation. I wanted to capture the rich colors and the over-the-top style in this painting and put it into the room. My first project in here was to hide that radiator. The best solution I could come up with was a window seat. A trick I wanted to point out is the heat grate. I went to several salvage places looking for an ornate metal grate to build the seat around. Everything was so ridiculously expensive. I was walking through the hardware store one day and found this black plastic fencing. A quick can of spray paint and I had my grate. The baseboard is made of the same oak veneer plywood and oak trim as the window seat. I pulled out the original and kept it to use in other rooms of the house. The molding around the doors was a lucky find. After seeing it in a friend's garage, I traded for it by painting a room in their house. I did have to recreate 3 of the medallions from the one original. I tend to go a little pillow crazy, as I'm sure you'll notice on this tour, but they are simple to make and the easiest way to change a room. My first thought in here was to create that old English library with oak paneling on the walls. Not only did that idea start to get too expensive, but it was potentially getting too dark. So this is the solution I came up with, Venetian plaster. It's a lot easier to put on than I thought, and it hides a ton of imperfections in a wall. Plus, the more you buff it, the more it shines. I wanted blue velvet for the drapes in here from the start, to pull out the blue background of the painting. I had no idea how hard it would be to find the right blue. There was no crown molding in this room originally, so I put in some oak. To hang the curtain behind the bed, I built a removable box from leftover trim. This is an idea I've used in the rest of the house. I also needed somewhere to keep my books, so the shelves were a natural next step. The entire shelf unit and the seat are made out of 3/4 inch oak veneer plywood, with solid oak trim to hide the edges. It was the most economical way to get the solid oak look. Now here in the living room, I had the same problem I had in the bedroom: ugly radiators. And I also wanted to create some more storage for the living room. An added bonus of the window seat is extra seating for when guests come over. The crown molding here in the living room is the original, but I did take it down and beefed it up a little bit. I added strips of MDF or microfiber density board and some stock trim from the Home Improvement Center. A strong molding draws the eye up and makes the ceilings feel taller. Another trick to create the illusion of taller ceilings was to have the curtains go all the way up and disappear behind the crown molding. I added an upholstered valance to hide the blinds. I didn't want to spend the time or the money to install a gas fireplace, so my best alternative was electric. The entire thing was built from MDF and trimmed out with standard stock from the hardware store. The hearth and the surround are faux painted. Now the mantle was a lucky alley find. I found an old countertop by the dumpster. It turned out to be made of mahogany. And then it was just a matter of cutting it down to the appropriate size. The mirrors on either side of the fireplace turned out to be my splurge item for the living room. I ordered them to have a hole cut for the light sconce. I had my electrician run lines for the TV, fireplace, and lights all at the same time. The walls ended up looking like Swiss cheese, but with some drywall and plaster patching, the walls turned out good as new. Both of these chairs were alley finds. The leather chair was very 70s with its harvest gold and avocado green upholstery, and this was my first try at upholstering. The other chair, I kind of cheated and I didn't fully refinish it. I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit and put a coat of varnish on it before putting on the new seat. Who knew it would be so much work to find a couch I liked? I searched everywhere, and I had found a designer couch online. Now the day I was ready to order it, I stopped at one more store, and there this one was. I covered both the back and the accent pillows in coordinating fabrics. My other splurge in this room was having accent lights put in the ceiling. There was one light originally in this room, which is a very common occurrence. But I wanted to be able to light the curtains and my artwork without a bunch of cords running all over the place. At the same time as the electrical work, I was able to take advantage of the open walls and run all the cables and wiring for the TV and surround sound system. And all of that equipment lives in a hallway closet.
No, we didn't just stumble into a whorehouse. This is my dining room. Ever since I was a little kid, my favorite color has been red. I begged my parents for red carpeting in my bedroom, and when I grew up, I always wanted a red dining room. Now, red can be a tricky color, and it can be ill-advised if you're renting. But when I finished construction in here, I got my red. This room was the most intensive construction project. The wall between the dining room and the bathroom was stripped down to the studs. As I mentioned before, I stole 2 feet from the dining room to put in the bathroom cabinets. But over here, I was able to put in a closet to hide all the electronics in the house. And then in between them, I was able to put in a built-in buffet. But this room was plenty big enough to handle it. The window seat in here was an afterthought. I made this one out of leftovers from the one in the living room. But this one isn't fastened to the wall, so I can use it to create more seating. The tray ceiling serves 2 purposes. First, it makes for a very dramatic look with lighting, but it also allowed me to hide the air conditioning duct running through the house. I removed the original molding, and there wasn't going to be enough of it with the new configuration of the walls, so I reused it in the living room. I hope you enjoyed your tour and you were able to take away some ideas for your own dream home. Now you may have noticed I didn't show you the kitchen. Well,
That's because it's my next project, and I'll be sure to share it with you as it happens. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, at home.